Part 67. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 661. Chapter 661. Feng Zhuili is actually more suitable for. Seeing Xia Ying's troubled look, Ye Xiaoxun persuaded her again. Xia Ying, I know that acting will delay your time to practice music, but please, just this time, okay? Just satisfy my selfish desires and play the role of Yin. Is it okay to be worry-free? Xia Ying looked at Ye Xiaoying's sincere eyes, sighed helplessly, bit her lower lip. I'll think about it. Ha, okay. Ye Xiaoying hugged Xia Ying happily. As long as Xia Ying didn't refuse outright, it meant there was still a chance. Who is the male protagonist? Xia Ying asked, then lowered her head and continued scrolling on Weibo. Jun Chenai, isn't he filming abroad now? Moreover, Jun Chenai will quit the entertainment industry soon. When Ye Xiaoying and Tang Guo heard Xia Ying's words, their eyes widened in shock, and they were so frightened that they forgot to breathe for a moment. Xia Ying, what are you talking about? Jun Chenai, China's national male and the most popular star, is quitting the entertainment industry. Tang Guo covered her chest and couldn't believe it. Although the titles you mentioned earlier are indeed very glorious, Jun Chenai is also serious. After filming Death Escape, he will retire from the entertainment industry. Xia Ying said lightly. Why? Ye Xiaoying and Tang Guo said in unison. Everyone has his own idea, there are not so many reasons why. Xia Ying said with profound meaning. If possible, Jun Chenai himself would definitely not want to quit. He loves acting and music so much. He is obviously a born idol, but he is forced to do things that go against what he really wants in his heart. Jun Chenai is the best candidate for me. Tang Guo hated it. Ye Xiaoxun, his biological mother, disagreed. Ye Xiaoxun pinched his chin and thought, actually, Jun Chenai is more suitable for the second male lead, Marquis Zheng. Feng Zhuili is ruthless and decisive in killing, but at the same time, he is extremely fond of the heroine Yin Wu. Feng Zhuili is actually more suitable for someone who is indulgent and loves deeply to the bone. Ye Xiaoxun didn't say the name, but the look in Ye Xiaoxun's eyes at Xia Ying already hinted clearly. She is talking about Yu Lingfeng. Yu Lingfeng can really play the role of Feng Zhuili in her own right. Xiaoxun, you know it's impossible. Xia Ying said seriously. Ye Xiaoxun curled her lips. She knew it was impossible, so she didn't say Yu Lingfeng's name. Feng Zhuili is my favorite male protagonist in all the years I have read novels. He is simply a perfect existence. Although I didn't know much about him at first, I thought he was a domineering, cold-blooded and ruthless man, and he also tore apart countless people. You and Marquis Zheng. But later they discovered that Feng Zhuili had made so many sacrifices secretly for Wu. He just didn't understand love, but he really loved Wu seriously. Worry, he has really changed a lot, especially what Feng Zhuili said to Wu at the end. Wow, yeah. If there is an afterlife, please meet me earlier. I thought about it again. Go watch my Feng Zhuili again. Tang Guo became more and more excited as he talked, while Ye Xiaoxun silently suppressed laughter at the side. Tang Guo didn't know that the man she liked so much, her own mother, who was very charming, was standing in front of her at this moment. Well, actually the male protagonist of Yi Sun's second novel is also quite perfect. Ye Xiaoxun promoted quietly. I'm thinking whether I should write the book The Wonderful Doctor, mistakenly provoked the evil prince in the future. After all, the protagonist's name sounds so cool. More updates will be added if the monthly ticket is over 50 today. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 662. Chapter 662. Mu Lingyu. Actually, I rarely read online novels. I only read them because people around me kept recommending them who knew I would get out of hand after reading them. Tang Guo said. Yeziaksun pursed his lips and smiled without making a sound. While a few people were talking and laughing, there was a knock on the door outside. Tanguo stood up from his seat and ran over to open the door. Send a representative from your dormitory downstairs to get military training uniforms. Okay, thanks. Tanguo immediately turned around and looked at Xia Ying and Yeziaksun. What models are you wearing? Bring me the M1, Xiaoxun's is the S1. Xia Ying said. Okay, I'll go get it. Thanks. You're welcome. Tanguo smiled sweetly and went out. By the way, Sakura, have you seen who the second female lead is? Yeziaksun frowned, looked at the official announcement on Weibo on his phone, and said to Xia Ying. Except for the male and female protagonists of the film version, other characters have been finalized one after another. Who? Xia Ying looked up at Yeziaksun and asked. Mu Lingyu. Yeziaksun said this name. Xia Ying raised her eyebrows slightly, and all the information about this name was gradually recalled from the depths of her mind. Mu Lingyu, when Xia Ying was working in the entertainment industry in her previous life, she met this Mu Lingyu. He is not well known, but he has a lot of airs. He often plays a big role and shows off to newcomers. However, he always maintains a gentle and approachable appearance in front of the public. Everyone in the industry also knows that Mu Lingyu actually has no ability or background. She only has those so-called good resources by virtue of her good figure and pretty face, wandering between the beds of major directors. At this time, Mu Lingyu had just made a name for herself in the entertainment industry. Because she played a good role, she is currently considered a third-tier star and has some die-hard fans following her. Some time ago, I participated in a very popular variety show and attracted a lot of fans due to my high IQ and high EQ character. However, Xia Ying did not expect that Mu Lingyu would sacrifice so much for this role. You must know that the director of the film version is an old man in his 50s. This director is quite famous and indeed capable, but he is notoriously lecherous in the industry. It is said that most of the supporting roles he chooses are based on unspoken rules. As a biological mother, what do you think of her? Xia Ying bit the straw of the soy milk and asked Yeziaksun. She is indeed pretty, but I think she is too soft. Can't she portray Zhang Shuiyan's viciousness and dominance? Yeziaksun thought about it carefully and said. Zhang Shuiyan is the female partner in The Great Doctor. As a female partner, her role is almost the same as that of the heroine Yin Wu. Zhang Shuiyan is the princess of the Ling Kingdom and the eldest concubine of the male protagonist Feng Zhuoli. Feng Zhuoli married her just to maintain a friendly relationship with Ling Guo. In fact, there was no friendship at all. However, Zhang Shuiyan fell in love with Feng Zhuoli. After knowing that Feng Zhuoli liked Yin Wu, he even resorted to all kinds of methods. He used various methods to make things difficult for Yin Wu, and he drove Wu to death several times and was close to death. As a princess, Zhang Shuiyan is quite domineering and proud. As a love rival, she is also quite ruthless and merciless. Mu Lingyu has played sweet and cute silly roles before, and she also behaves as a very gentle girl in variety shows. That's why Yeziaksun felt that she wasn't quite suitable for Zhang Shuiyan's personality. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 663. Chapter 663 A Big Green Flesh Insect. Xia Ying, however, disagreed and said with a faint smile, "Don't worry, this role is very suitable for Mu Lingyu. Mu Lingyu can almost act as her true self. She has worked so hard to disguise herself, and she can really show off her talents in the play. Yet, if you don't believe it, you can go and have a look at the visiting team when the time comes," Xia Ying continued. Furthermore, director Wang is so vicious, and Zhang Shuiyan's role is so crucial. Unless we are completely sure, it is impossible for him to give Mu Lingyu of. All right. Ye Xiaoxun nodded, feeling that Xia Ying was right. At this time, Tang Guo'er came over with military training uniform, military green clothes, hat and belt. It looked like a university atmosphere all of a sudden. Ye Xiaoxun's eyes couldn't help but light up. He opened the packaging bag curiously and tried it on his body. It seems pretty good looking. Ye Xiaoxun said with a smile. I also got an pair for Senior Suji, she should be able to wear it. Tang Guo'er put the clothes on Suji's table and said to himself. Just as Tang Guo'er put down his clothes, he suddenly let out a scream. Ah dash! Xia Ying and Ye Xiaoxun heard the sound and hurried over. What's wrong? Tang Guo'er took several steps back suddenly and almost fell backwards because she couldn't stand firmly. Fortunately, Xia Ying had quick eyes and quick hands and reached out to support Tang Guo'er's waist. Tang Guo'er's innocent eyes flashed with fright, and she pointed at Suji's table in horror, and said tremblingly, Chong, worm, I saw a worm. Ye Xiaoxun's tense nerves softened instantly. Hey, little Candy, you scared me to death. What did I think it was? Isn't it just a little insect? As Ye Xiaoxun said this, he bravely stepped forward, but before he reached the table, Tang Guo'er hurriedly grabbed the corner of Ye Xiaoxun's clothes. No, don't go, that insect is so scary. Xia Ying frowned and stared at Suji's table, thinking about something. How scary can a bug be? Don't worry, I'm not afraid of bugs. Ye Xiaoxun patted his chest and said proudly to Tang Guo'er. Tang Guo'er then weakly let go of Ye Xiaoxun. However, Ye Xiaoxun walked to the table and looked around, but he couldn't see the insect Tang Guo'er mentioned. There are no bugs. Ye Xiaoxun spread his hands and said helplessly. Ah! Tang Guo'er was also puzzled. Tang Guo'er silently stepped forward and carefully looked at the seemingly calm table. Look, there really isn't. Ye Xiaoxun saw that Tang Guo'er still looked so scared, so he turned it over again and showed it to her. Then, maybe he ran away. Tang Guo'er breathed a long sigh of relief and said. Little Candy, what does the bug you just saw look like? Xia Ying asked Tang Guo'er. Could it be a cockroach? Ye Xiaoxun said, and began to look around the dormitory. The general cleaning was done yesterday, so it stands to reason that there would be no cockroaches. No, 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 it's a disgusting big meat bug, green. As Tang Guo'er spoke, he recalled the fear in that glance, and the expression on his face immediately became distorted. Big green meat worm. Xia Ying felt sick to her stomach even as she said these words. Aha! Tang Guo'er continued, I even looked at it, oh, it's so scary. Tang Guo'er suddenly hugged Xia Ying, trembling and said, Xia Ying, if I have a nightmare tonight, can you sleep with me? Xia Ying looked down at Tang Guo'er's beautiful eyes and nodded. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 664. Chapter 664. Have you ever thought about finding your father? What are you doing? At this time, the dormitory door was opened, and a cold female voice sounded. Xia Ying raised her eyes and met Suji's cold face. Suji looked at everyone blankly, with cold light reflected in his eyes. That, we. Ye Xiaoxun turned Suji's table into a mess. She came back at this time and saw this scene. Judging from her appearance, she was angry. There are insects on your table, Xiaoxun is helping you find them. Xia Ying replied in a neither humble nor arrogant tone. Suji's eyes fell on Xia Ying. Suji's eyes flickered for a moment. After staring at Xia Ying for 2 seconds, he didn't say anything. He just walked quickly to his desk and said to Ye Xiaoxun, leave. Ye Xiaoxun had no choice but to stand up straight and take several steps back. Suji lowered his head, with no visible expression on his face, and quickly cleared his table with his hands. You are not allowed to touch my things in the future, under any circumstances. Tanguo blinked, pursed her lips, and stared at Suji. There was a slight hint of fear in his eyes. After Suji cleared the table, he put his guhan on his back and left without leaving any other words. As soon as Suji left, Tanguo curled her lips and said to Xia Ying, "She is so mean. She is obviously helping her, why is she so mean?" Yeziaksun nodded in agreement. Maybe she really doesn't like others touching her things. Xia Ying stared at Suji's tidy table and said, "Does Suji have obsessive-compulsive disorder or something?" Xia Ying stared at the desk for a while and found that everything was arranged exactly the same as before. Including which book is on top and which is at the bottom of each book, there are no changes. During the period when Jun Chennai was filming in Hollywood, Rong Ci followed Jun Chennai closely like a nanny. While resting, Jun Chennai drank juice and said to Rong Ci beside him, "I asked you why you are so weird this time. Why are you following me so closely? What do you think?" Rong Ci flicked the ashes from his cigarette, raised his eyes and looked at Jun Chennai, and said. The corners of Jun Chennai's mouth raised, making a deep arc, "Are you afraid that I will die?" Rong Ci raised his eyelids and looked at Jun Chennai. Jun Chennai's smile became more and more bitter. Rong Ci didn't say anything and just laughed for a while. "Rong Ci, aren't you afraid that I will harm you?" Jun Chennai looked at Rong Ci with an unusually calm expression and said. "If you're involved, just be involved since you were a child, have you involved me a few times?" Rong Ci said jokingly. "I'm not joking with you. This is my disaster. You could have avoided it, but don't you feel it's a pity if you are also implicated?" Jun Chennai's smile became increasingly bitter. "It's not a pity." Rong Ci lay back and looked at the few floating clouds flowing leisurely in the blue sky. "Without my sister and my father, I wouldn't be alive today, so protecting you is what I should do." Jun Chennai looked at Rong Ci. Rong Ci is the younger cousin of Jun Chennai's mother. Rong Ci's mother was a single mother and died when Rong Ci was very young. Rong Ci has been following Jun's mother and growing up with Jun Chennai. Jun's mother has always regarded Rong Ci as her own, so Rong Ci has always been grateful in her heart. "Then have you ever thought about finding your father?" Jun Chennai asked. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 665. Chapter 665, this is the scene they are going to start. Rong Ci smiled bitterly and shook his head. "From the moment he abandoned me and my mother, I no longer have a father." Rong Ci said, closing his eyes, the sun shining on Rong Ci's long eyelashes, warm and charming. "Ahem, we're all in trouble." Rong Ci suddenly opened one eye and looked at Jun Chennai seriously. "Pay attention to your seniority. Whoever is your brother, you are my eldest nephew." Jun Chennai rolled his eyes. "This guy really is. Now we start shooting the third scene," the director shouted with a loudspeaker. Rong Ci was shocked. Is the third scene the scene of rescuing the little hostage girl? In order to confirm his conjecture, Rong Ci took Jun Chennai's script and read it carefully. "What's wrong?" Jun Chennai felt that something was not right about Rong Ci, and his expression was frighteningly solemn. This play. Rong Ci was mumbling something, his eyebrows were wrinkled, and his eyelids were so nervous that they began to sweat. "What's wrong with this play?" Jun Chennai couldn't help but panic when he saw Rong Ci like this. "This is the play they want to start." Rong Ci raised his eyes, looked into Jun Chennai's deep pupils, and said. "Then, what should we do?" "Don't worry, I have already told the shadow hunters that if something goes wrong, they will come out as quickly as possible," Rong Ci continued. "Bomb, the prop team is ready." Rong Ci turned around and looked at the bomb. I'm going to check on the bomb. Rong Si said and walked away. Xia Ying and Yu Lingfeng told him that he must be careful about the bomb and all dangerous devices on the set, because these may become causes of performance accidents. Hey, what are you doing? As soon as Rong Si got close to the bomb, he was stopped by the staff next to him. It's time to film, leave quickly. Rong Si did not listen to their words at all, and even started to study the bomb. At this time, the entire studio looked at him. What are you doing? Several bodyguards stepped forward to restrain Rong Si and forcibly took him away from the set. Rong Si did not resist at all and left with them. The strange thing was that Rong Si had just checked the bomb. There was nothing wrong with it. It had not been tampered with. It was just a performance prop that would not explode at all. Rong Si had touched the bomb before, so for safety reasons, the staff checked the bomb again and started filming the movie only after there was nothing wrong. Rong Si, who was driven out, was not idle either. He looked around and checked for possible safety hazards. However, nothing was found. So, the other party doesn't plan to attack Jun Chennai in this scene? Rong Si was still thinking about something. At this time, Rong Si suddenly heard the sound of planes flying above the sky getting louder and louder. Rong Si looked up and saw that the plane was flying towards the tall building where the photo was taken. Rong Si was startled subconsciously, and then immediately ran towards the building behind him. While running, he took out his cell phone and issued a danger warning to the shadow hunters. At this time, rescue filming was still going on inside the building. Jun Chennai was nervously untying the little girl at the moment. The sound of the ticking countdown of the bomb was ringing in the quiet office building. There was a noisy sound of planes flying outside, which made the director curse, S.H.I.T, which could have been done in one go. Because of the interference from the plane that suddenly flew over, I had to stop and start again. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yun Suya. Chapter 666. Chapter 666. There was a loud noise from the building next to it. Jun Chennai had just stopped to take a rest when suddenly a row of black shadows appeared behind him. Before Jun Chennai could react, someone grabbed him and took him away. By the time Jun Chennai reacted, he had already been taken downstairs. Jun Chennai was confused for a moment. What happened? He was filming upstairs just now, but in the blink of an eye, he ran downstairs. At this time, Rong Si arrived just in time and took Jun Chennai's hand to take him away. What happens? Jun Chennai was dragged by Rong Si's arm, not knowing what he was doing. That plane. Rong Si didn't have time to explain anything to Jun Chennai, so he just said this. At this moment, the staff and actors upstairs also evacuated downstairs as quickly as possible and ran outside. Rong Si just called the director team and said that the plane outside was carrying terrorists and was going to blow up the building. They accepted it and ran away. Terrorists are very common abroad. They have even bombed government buildings, let alone a building used for filming. So after hearing the news from Rong Si, everyone ran away subconsciously without having time to think about whether what Rong Si said was true or false. It's just that the speed at which everyone ran downstairs couldn't match the speed of the plane. When everyone ran downstairs, the plane had already flown over the building, safe and sound, and the plane was flying farther and farther. Everyone was confused, and their heartbeats could not calm down yet. Some were so timid that they even ran away while crying for their father and mother. However, nothing happened. It was just a plane flying low, just passing by. If there were really terrorists who really wanted to blow up the building, they would have died long ago. However, nothing has happened now. In other words, Wrong CI is lying. The director was furious and said he was going to resign and spread rumors. Not to mention delaying their filming progress, it's still causing people to panic. Wrong CI was also confused by Monk Jong Er. What was going on? Wasn't the murderer ready to take action? The bomb is good, everything around is safe, even a suspicious plane flying over just flew a little lower. No matter what, Wrong CI always felt that this matter was not that simple. Because Wrong CI repeatedly disrupted their filming process, they were ordered not to enter the filming location. Jun Chennai persuaded everyone to resist the idea of beating Wrong CI in a group. Maybe, it's not this scene. Jun Chennai patted Wrong CI on the shoulder and whispered. No, I always have a bad feeling. Wrong CI held his forehead, feeling an unknown panic in his heart. Okay, you can wait for me at the nearby coffee shop once the scene is filmed, we can call it a day. Jun Chennai continued, as long as the shadow hunters are here, I will be fine. Wrong C's eyes were a little dazed, but he still nodded. Be careful if anything goes wrong, be sure to call me in time, I'll be downstairs. Wrong CI said. Jun Chennai nodded, then turned around and went in with everyone else. Wrong CI watched Jun Chennai and others go in, although everything seemed to be calm and there were no hidden dangers at the moment. But Wrong CI couldn't calm down in his heart. It was like a small stone thrown into the lake. Even if there weren't many splashes, the ripples on the surface would linger for a long time. Wrong CI sighed, then turned around and went to the nearby coffee shop and ordered a cup of coffee. Just as Wrong CI was about to enjoy his coffee, a loud noise came from the building next to him. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 667. Chapter 667. The little girl Jun Chennai traded his life for. Wrong CI was startled, and the coffee cup fell to the ground, making a clear and harsh sound. Wrong CI turned to look at the building where Jun Chennai was. The shattered glass windows scattered glass shards all over the floor. Due to the explosion, the building partially collapsed. The crumbling reinforced concrete was like the of death from waving to people. The cars parked underneath made noisy whistles, and passers-by gathered in front of the building to watch, discussing what happened and why the explosion suddenly occurred. Wrong CI was completely panicked. Even when he rushed out, his legs kept shaking. The police car quickly drove over. Wrong CI wanted to go in to see the situation, but was blocked by the police cordon and was not allowed to pass. Wrong CI had no choice but to keep calling Jun Chennai, but the other party never answered. Ambulances arrived one after another, and police officers also went up to understand the situation. A bomb was suddenly detonated in the filming location. There were many staff members in the office at the time. Although the bomb was not very lethal, everyone in the room was either killed or injured. Especially for someone like Jun Chennai who is acting and who is closest to the bomb, Wrong C's heart is hanging in a knot right now. Wrong CI has never been a superstitious person, but at this moment, he looked at the cross of the Christian church not far away and kept crossing himself on his chest, praying devoutly for Jun Chennai. He must be fine. No matter what, Jun Chennai must be fine. However, when the medical staff brought down the bodies one after another, Wrong C's eyes turned completely red. Finally, Wrong CI saw Jun Chennai. Jun Chennai was being carried on a stretcher. The little girl playing the hostage cried so hard that she followed Jun Chennai. The little girl was not injured except for minor scratches on her arms and legs. Jun Chennai was carried into the ambulance, and the little girl watched with tears in her eyes as the ambulance door was closed. Wrong CI thought about it, so he shouted in English like crazy, I am his relative, I am Justin Jun's relative. Jun Chennai's English name is Justin, and his foreign fans like to call him Just Injun. Hearing Wrong C's excited shouting, the police officer finally let him over. Rong Si was just about to get into the ambulance and accompany Jun Chennai, but the little girl grabbed him by the corner of his clothes. "Please, can you take me with you?" The little girl's blue pupils were covered with layers of mist, and she cried very sadly. She said to Rong Si in English, "If he hadn't saved me, he wouldn't have been hurt." Rong Si's nose was sore and his eyes stung as he stared at the little girl with a face filled with self-blame. Rong Si finally took her with him. Jun Chennai sacrificed his life to save the little girl. When he woke up, he must also want to know what happened to the little girl. Along the way, the little girl kept lying on the side crying. Jun Chennai was seriously injured in the explosion, and Rong Si didn't dare to recognize him at all. If it weren't for the already damaged black ribbon on Jun Chennai's wrist and the conspicuous black hair among the group of foreigners, Rong Si would hardly be able to recognize that the man in front of him was Jun Chennai. His face was almost ruined and his whole body was injured extensively. Even if he survived, he was no longer the handsome Jun Chennai he used to be. Rong Si learned from the little girl that Jun Chennai could have escaped when the bomb was triggered, but he subconsciously ran over to protect the little girl, causing himself to be seriously injured and fell into a coma. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 668. Chapter 668 Jun Chennai's life or death is uncertain. Jun Chennai was sent to the intensive care unit for emergency treatment. Rong Si's hand holding the phone trembled violently. He looked at the rows of phone numbers and clicked the phone with his heart throbbing. Your father and mother who are far away from home do not know what happened to Jun Chennai at this moment. Rong Si didn't know how they would react if he told them. Taito University is undergoing a month-long military training for new students. The high-intensity military training is very difficult for these girls who have been pampered since childhood. As soon as they arrived at the dormitory, the girls started to wash up, complained about the instructor's harshness, and looked in the mirror and lamented that they were tanned again. I feel like my face is sunburned. Xia Ying finished taking a shower, looked at the mirror for a long time, and said. Xia Ying originally felt that her face was dry and painful during the day. The sun has been extremely hot these days, and the instructor prefers to let them stand in military positions in places with strong sunlight. Now, Xia Ying discovered that the area had become red from the sun. It was still hard to the touch, but it was not a sunburn. Try using my repair essence. Tang Guo handed Xia Ying a small essence and said. Okay, thank you. Tang Guo came closer to Xia Ying again and stared at Xia Ying's face. Sure enough, she is sunburned, and it's quite serious. Yeah, it hurts a lot. Xia Ying said while applying repair essence. At this time, Su Ji came out of the bathroom. Su Ji didn't seem to be affected at all. Everyone had tanned these days, but she was the only one. There was no change at all. Su Ji's ivory white complexion is very enviable, and she also has a physique that cannot be tanned, which is simply irritating. When standing in a military posture, Su Ji is always the one who stands best and for the longest time, and she hardly sweats. When everyone was sweating from exhaustion, Su Ji only shed a thin layer of sweat. Others' clothes were soaked, but she was still as clean as a spotless fairy. Having been together for several weeks, Su Ji still hasn't communicated with them. Sometimes Tang Guo took the initiative to talk to her, but Su Ji would also be indifferent and indifferent. Gradually, Tang Guo stopped trying. After applying the essence, Xia Ying put on a facial mask, lay on the bed, and leisurely prepared to play with her mobile phone. She didn't touch her phone all day today, and she was almost out of touch with the world. However, Xia Ying had just turned on her phone, and all the pop-up news that came to her face were, Jun Chennai's performance accident, Jun Chennai's disfigurement, Jun Chennai's life and death unknown. Xia Ying's pupils shrank and she suddenly sat up from the bed. So, Jun Chennai still failed to avoid the disaster? Xia Ying's cell phone has dozens of missed calls, from Yu Lingfeng, Rong Ci, and Chu Shenxiu and the others. Xia Ying clicked Yu Lingfeng's phone number and called back, Yu Lingfeng, where are you now? USA. Jun Chenai, is he okay? Has been in a coma and has not woken up. You come to pick me up, I want to see him. Xia Ying hung up the phone, then Yugila got off the bed, took her clothes and ran into the bathroom, ready to change and go out. At this time, Ye Xiaoxun and Tanguo also saw the news feed on the internet. Just this afternoon, while Jun Chenai was filming a movie, a bomb accidentally exploded. 3 people died on the spot, and all the others were injured. More than 10 people were seriously injured. The cause of the accident is still under investigation. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 669. Chapter 669. This is Xia Ying's boyfriend. Life or death is uncertain. Ye Xiaoxun chewed these 4 despairing words over and over again, and Jun Chenai's voice and smile could not help but appear in his mind. Throughout 3 years of high school, Jun Chenai has always sat behind Ye Xiaoxun. Ye Xiaoxun sat in front of Xia Ying and Jun Chenai, and often heard the two of them bickering and quarreling. At this time, Ye Xiaoxun would turn his head and look at the two of them with a faint smile. Ye Xiaoxun never thought that Jun Chenai, a sunny and outstanding person, would find out about such a thing. Hope everything is well with him. Su Ji was sitting at the table, also watching the news on the internet. However, unlike the sorrowful emotions of Tanguo and Ye Xiaoxun, Su Ji's face remained calm, as if he was contemplating something rather than watching the news. At this time, Xia Ying hurried out of the bathroom, took off the mask on her face, and prepared to go out with a bare face. Sakura, where are you going so late? Ye Xiaoxun asked. If I check my bed later, just say I'm sick and go to the hospital. Before Xia Ying could finish her words, the door had already closed with a clang. Su Ji raised his head and looked indifferently in the direction of the door. Isn't Xia Ying going to see Jun Chenai? Ye Xiaoxun blinked and said to himself. Ah, now. Tanguo said it was incredible. Otherwise, if Sakura is so anxious, what else could she do? Ye Xiaoxun said, ran to the windowsill and stared downstairs. There was a handsome and dignified man in black standing downstairs, and Ye Xiaoxun immediately recognized him as Yu Lingfeng. Then, not long after, Xia Ying ran to Yu Lingfeng, panting heavily, and without having time to stop and rest, she took Yu Lingfeng's hand and ran away. Must have gone to see Jun Chenai. Ye Xiaoxun thought so, and when he turned around, he met a pair of indifferent eyes. Ah dash! Ye Xiaoxun screamed subconsciously, and Su Ji appeared behind Ye Xiaoxun at some unknown time, also staring downstairs. When Ye Xiaoxun screamed like this, Su Ji glanced at her lightly, then turned and left. Ye Xiaoxun opened his mouth. Just when he was about to say something to Su Ji already opened the dormitory door and went out. Tanguo stood aside, turned his head and looked at Ye Xiaoxun, and sighed helplessly, so, 2 people are going to the hospital now. Ye Xiaoxun helplessly spread his hands and did not answer the call. When Xia Ying and Yu Lingfeng arrived, Jun Chenai was wrapped tightly in gauze, and his father and mother were guarded by Rong Ci. Although Jun's father had a straight face and said nothing, his eyes were shining and his brows had been furrowed. Jun's father was not good at expressing his emotions with words. He saw that his only son had become like this. Looking like this, in addition to being devastated, he felt more self-blame. Jun Mu's eyes were already swollen from crying, and she had no time to touch up her makeup. At this time, No one hoped that Jun Chennai would survive and open his eyes to see them. Seeing Xia Ying, my father and mother had no time to wonder about Xia Ying, who was in China but arrived in the United States in just half an hour. Jun's father and his mother's eyes fell on the junction of Xia Ying and Yu Lingfeng's clasped hands. It turned out that Xia Ying's boyfriend in Jun Chennai's mouth was this Yu Lingfeng. This man is so handsome and enchanting, with a noble air about him that no one can get close to. His appearance and figure are even higher than Jun Chennai's, which is indeed beyond their expectations. Thanks to the little cuties Mochien and Cute Kantong for the reward. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 670. Chapter 670. There is no way to inherit the Jun family. Uncle and Aunt. Xia Ying politely called father, lord, and mother, then stepped forward and stared at the young man who was covered in bandages and whose face was blurred. Jun Chennai was injured like this, and no one could accept it? After a while, there were knocks on the door of the hospital ward, and waves of people came in. Xia Ying and Yu Lingfeng were standing aside, staring blankly at the group of people. They are all members of the Jun family, direct relatives such as Jun Chennai's uncles and uncles. Everyone's face showed a look of grief, but no one knew whether it was fake or real. The Jun family is really cruel and ruthless. At this time, a middle-aged man who was probably in his 50s but looked like he was only in his 40s walked towards Xia Ying with serious steps. The man's eyes are deep, and the light revealed in his eyes is mature and steady that has been polished by years. The indifferent lips pursed slightly, giving people a feeling of being difficult to get close to, and the noble aura exuding from his whole body made it even more difficult to get close to him. Hello, I am Chen Yi's uncle, and you are Xia Ying, right? When the eldest uncle was talking to Xia Ying, his expression softened a lot and he tried his best to look approachable. The uncle glanced at Yu Lingfeng next to Xia Ying again, but his eyes did not stay long before returning to Xia Ying. Yes, hello. Xia Ying nodded. Such a thing happened. None of us expected that such an outstanding and kind-hearted child as Chen Yi should not suffer such a disaster. The uncle lowered his head and sighed, his eyes sparkling. Xia Ying heard Jun Chennai talk about his uncle before. Jun Chennai said that his uncle was the one who treated him the best among the uncles in the family. The eldest uncle has no children, so he has always treated Jun Chennai as his own and loved him as much as his own child. Xia Ying didn't answer the call, she was just confused. The doctor said that even if Jun Chennai was out of danger, his face would never come back, and the skin all over his body would suffer extensive disfigurement. Xia Ying looked at Jun Chennai who was still in a coma on the hospital bed. Although the group of people didn't let him die, they had lost half of his life. He didn't know whether he would become disabled in the future. So, their goal has been achieved, and the Jun family cannot belong to Jun Chennai. This group of people said at best they came to see Jun Chennai, but at worst they wanted to come over to confirm the inheritance rights of the Jun family. Since Jun Chennai has no way to inherit the Jun family, he must choose another one. At this time, everyone was secretly working hard in their hearts to sit on that golden chair. Xia Ying and Yu Lingfeng went back, and they planned to wait for Jun Chennai to wake up and come see him again. At present, Jun Chennai is out of danger, but when Jun Chennai woke up and found his current physical state, he didn't know what his mentality would be like. Yu Lingfeng. Xia Ying called Yu Lingfeng's name in a low voice, and a layer of sweat broke out on her palms while holding Yu Lingfeng's hands. Yu Lingfeng paused and turned sideways. Xia Ying's pleading eyes made Yu Lingfeng unable to resist. Yu Lingfeng reached out and stroked a few locks of bangs on Xia Ying's forehead, and said softly, I know what you want to say, and I will help him. It just takes time. End of this chapter.